Hi, this is Prashant Bharadwaj, Professor of Operations and Supply Chain Management. Today we are going to talk about facility layout. This is probably the second most important decision for a manufacturing or a retail organization or even a warehouse. After deciding where to locate your facility, the next important decision is how to lay out the entire facility. Today, what I'm going to do in this lesson is provide to you some basics about how to lay out a facility. We will talk about a manufacturing facility, we'll talk about retail facility, warehouses, and a few other types of facilities. So let us start with some of the basics now. Okay, let's talk about some of the considerations in layout. So if you look at this slide, I have given you like 10 different considerations of a layout. The first and foremost thing is safety. Whether you're looking at workers working in a manufacturing facility or getting your customers into a retail outlet, you gotta have a layout that is safe. That is number one. The second thing is ergonomics. This is with reference to the employees. What is ergonomics? Today we use that term all the time. We got to have an ergonomic keyboard, an ergonomic workplace, even an ergonomic ATM machine. Ergonomics is the idea of laying out the facility and the tools, everything that a worker needs, so that the physiological as well as the psychological stress to the worker is minimized. So we got to lay out the facility very ergonomically. Next, productivity and quality. We got to lay out the facility in such a way that it is highly productive. Next, how do you make sure that you inspect the products that you're producing? How do you assure that good quality is being produced? Good service is being rendered. If you're talking about a call center, that is also a facility. You got to understand how to lay out such a facility. So productivity and quality, they become important. Next, what kind of material handling equipment are you using there within the facility? That is important for us to consider. In some big manufacturing facility, you will have overhead cranes going on top of the facility. You got to make sure that you have enough space for that. There are strict guidelines by OSHA in the United States where you got to have a minimum aisle space if you're using a certain type of material handling equipment. Are you using automated storage and retrieval systems, which we will talk about later? Automated guided vehicles. So what are the kinds of things you're using to handle your material? And it doesn't have to be a manufacturing facility again. Within offices, you might have seen or you might have experienced, they use different types of vehicles to deliver mail in some of the big offices today. In hospitals, they use different kinds of vehicles to deliver food and medicine to different hospital rooms. So what kind of equipment are we using? That is very important in laying out the facility. How much does it cost? How long does it take to handle the material, the time? All of these are very important considerations in layout. Next, you want to eliminate bottlenecks. And I'm going to talk later today about assembly line balancing, where the single most important consideration or objective is to eliminate bottlenecks. You want to have a smooth flow of products within a facility. If there is a bottleneck, you are unnecessarily creating too much work in process inventory and slowing down the entire process. So that is another consideration. Followed by that, efficient utilization of space and labor. You want to lay out the facility in such a way that the space is utilized very effectively and efficiently. If you look at retail outlets today, apart from all the financial considerations, When you talk about operations, we talk about two very important things. One is inventory turnover, which is not directly related to layout, but the other operational measure that you look at is sales per square feet, or sales per square meter, or revenues per square meter or square feet of retail space. So the kind of layout that you have is very important in maximizing utilization of the space and also the people that you have, the labor. Because you don't want people to walk around too much handling material or inspecting or producing different things. Next, privacy and aesthetics. Certainly very important in an office layout. So you want to figure out whether you want to have highly private offices. If you're talking about high-level C-level offices, then privacy becomes critical. But in some of the offices where there are hundreds of employees of the same level working, there is very little privacy today. They even don't have cubicles in some places. You have a huge area where everybody can see each other. So privacy is not an issue there. Whereas in some places, privacy becomes very critical. How do you take care of that? Aesthetics, again, very important in an office building. And not just office building. You go to some of the real nice, lean operations kind of facilities. Even in a manufacturing facility, aesthetics are very important. How clean you got to keep the facility. You have all learned about 5S system in lean operations. Aesthetics is a significant part of the 5S kind of layout. Design and volume of the product. That is another important thing. When I say design of the product, I'm talking about, are you manufacturing something that is a liquid? I have worked on several consulting projects. In one place, we had a company which was making detergents, packaging detergents. They were a contract manufacturer. When you're talking about liquids, it is easy to pump the liquid and manipulate the liquid easily, and the facility will be easier to lay out. But when we're talking about powder detergent, the kind of material handling that is required is totally different and much more complex if you want to raise the powder and bring it down in a facility. So the kind of layout is different when you talk about liquid or when you talk about powder in this example. So what is the kind of product? Volume, that is one of the most important things. Later, I'm going to talk about job shop versus assembly lines. A job shop is for low volume, whereas an assembly line is for high volume of production. Next consideration is flexibility. Today, that is extremely critical in laying out a facility. You want to have a facility that is highly flexible. And what kind of flexibility I'm talking about? Number one is volume flexibility or capacity flexibility. You should be able to produce different volumes. Today, you figured out that your demand is 1,000 units per month. So you laid out your facility to produce 1,000 units. But in the 6 months from now, if your demand goes up to 1,500 or goes down to 800, you should have the flexibility to bring your production up or down. So your facility should be able to do that cost effectively. Process flexibility. If you want to change the process in which you're manufacturing the product or delivering the service. Routing flexibility. So that is the way that you're producing from what work center to what work center the flow of production is taking place. If you want to change that, you should be able to. And the last flexibility is product flexibility. You don't want to have a very stringent assembly line where you can produce one and only one product. There are some assembly lines which are very inflexible. But if you have the ability to produce multiple products, but cost effectively, that will be the ideal way. Of course, if you have a job shop, flexibility is the key for a job shop. but job shop is not as efficient as an assembly line when it comes to cost per unit. The next consideration is location related. Meaning, if you have determined that this is where you're going to locate your facility, and one side of the facility has a beautiful view of a lake, you obviously want to lay out your facility in such a way that the C-level officers, the CEO, CFO, and so on, are having that perfect view. So the location of the facility, the site itself, plays a very important role in the layout. When I talk about environmental or green considerations in layout, I'm talking about multiple things today. There are facilities, office buildings, manufacturing plants, which boast of being green. There are companies today that are using rainwater, where we are getting 40, 50 inches of rainwater in some cities. And they're making sure that they're using that water in the restrooms and many other places. It is obvious today that people are more productive when there is more sunlight. Students are more attentive and more productive when there is more sunlight in the learning environment. Same thing with workers in a manufacturing environment. There are many places where they're designing workplaces where the sunlight is the predominant light. And what does that do? It reduces the need to have electric lights in many places. It reduces the need for air conditioning in many places. It reduces the need for heating during winter. So there are many companies which are laying out the facilities in such a way that they are environmentally very sensitive. So these are some of the considerations when you're laying out a facility. We'll go into some details as we go through the next topics.